Hi, welcome to Tuesday Talk, and my name is Shawanda. So today we are talking about toxic situations, and we want to understand what are toxic situations and how to recognize them in your life. Now, chances are is that you have actually heard the term toxic people or toxic situations, and even recently we've kind of seen a trend where people are talking about what their toxic trait is, and we're kind of seeing more and more of that, like I said, on social media. But generally speaking, what does the term toxic people and what are toxic situations? Generally speaking, the term refers to people or situations that are highly dysfunctional or even dangerous, right? Toxic situations are basically like hotbeds for things like strife or chaos or discord, and they're usually driven by people who have very little self-awareness. These people are normally just very disconnected to what is going on in their life and very disconnected to kind of the impact that they're having in the lives of others around them. So when it comes to making an impact, right, we're always making an impact wherever we go. How we show up in any given place or situation, it definitely impacts our atmosphere. It impacts the community and the energy amongst the people that are involved, right? That's how we show up. But likewise, when other people show up into our spaces, right, encountering us or those around us, they also have an impact on people, atmosphere, community, and energy, right? So it is an exchange of the impact of what we do and how we show up. Now, while we definitely cannot control others, we certainly don't have to be subjected to toxicity if that is a part of a situation. We have the ability to kind of remove ourselves from toxic situations, but the key is to understanding what they are, what they look like, and kind of also understanding like what spaces that these toxic traits kind of show up in. Now, toxic situations are based in negativity, and they are definitely very, very destructive. So again, they're based in negativity, and they are very, very destructive. It does not take a rocket scientist to realize when something doesn't feel right, because we normally have that sense of intuition to kind of let us know that something is just kind of a little off. But this is a little different because sometimes when something's a little off, you kind of pick up on that, right? But when it comes to toxic situations, sometimes it's not always very clear to us, and it's more than just things being a little off. We're talking toxic. We're talking just very, very destructive. Okay. Now, where can some of these things show up? Well, they show up in our most common relationships that we normally take for granted, which is why we don't normally identify that some of these relationships are toxic. For example, our friendships. Now that is a common one, and sometimes we do realize that they do show up in our friendships, right? But what about marriages and or other family relationships? And then we also have our work environments as well as organizations and clubs. And organizations and clubs could be anything. It could be school groups, it could be community groups, it could be even churches, right? So, or anything like that. So anywhere you have some type of organization, even fraternities or things like that, right? So anywhere that you are kind of amongst a community or a social group where you're gathering amongst people, that can be a toxic situation. Not all of them, but toxic situations can exist in those groups, right? All right. Now, what are some clues that you can pick up on to identify if you are in a toxic situation? Well, if one or more people within that group or in that community is always at odds with one another. If you are in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, a marriage, or family relationships, or work environments, or organization, or club, yes, you may have situations where you have disagreements. That's normal in relationships. But if one or more people, if they're always at odds with one another, that's different, right? So that's more than something's just a little bit off. That's very off because there should be some type of harmony within the group. So if you're having more discord than you are harmony, then that's really off, and that's a sign that the group is very toxic. Also, when we're looking at rational attempts to diffuse hostility or confusion that are spun out of context, if you're looking at one or more members of the group are very passive aggressive, or just kind of in the friendships or relationships are very passive aggressive, those are some clues or signs that you're in toxic situations. And if there's a lot of splitting people against one another, you feel routinely emotionally drained, that's a sign of a toxic situation. And also if the mood is kind of somber, too serious, or unfortunately gets to the point to where you're just really depressed, right? Again, these are all signs of that you are in toxic situations, because if you are in any type of relationship, if you are down more than you are up, then that is a sign that you are in something that is more than just a little off. It's very toxic, which means it is completely unhealthy for you. Again, we talked about recognizing that these situations or these toxic situations can take a little bit of time. And usually people without some type of specialized training normally don't realize the signs right away. But the great thing is that, you can take some type of, at this point, by having some of the clues, you can now start being a little bit more aware of picking up on some of the signs that you might be in a toxic situation, because these situations, they start feeling confusing, and after a while you start having this natural tendency to where you want to help, you want to fix a situation, you want to appease the toxic people, because normally that's kind of what we want to do, right? But when you're dealing with something that's very toxic, they really do require professional intervention to kind of stop the dysfunction, to heal the damage, and to move forward. And so it's really important that you do the work to kind of identify these things and realize it is beyond something it's beyond your capacity to fix, and that it is something that actually needs professional intervention. And that the best thing that you could do for you is to be safe by leaving the toxic situation before it causes irreparable damage to yourself and to your health. Listen, learning to manage these situations, it definitely takes time, and it definitely takes specialized training. If you find yourself wondering if you are in a toxic situation, just do your best. Do your best to assess what's happening. And then if you find yourself again in that situation, start creating an exit plan. Creating an exit plan as soon as possible to get out of there. Staying too long or trying to be the hero to try to fix something that is beyond your capacity or your scope of ability to do so is definitely going to cause you more harm and more pain. So unless the person or the organization is open to change, there likely will not be an end to the toxicity anytime soon. So be wise and minimize your exposure to the toxicity. I hope this has been helpful to you in our Tuesday talk of how you begin to recognize toxic situations and understanding a little bit about what they are, so that you can begin to take some of the steps to help you to remain healthy and not allow these to continue to harm you. Thank you for joining me on my Tuesday talk. My name is Shawana Randolph, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.